Hello, Bible in a Year family. Pastor Kevin. We are on episode 165, taking a look at Psalms 84 through 90 today. I'm going to specifically focus on Psalm 90 as a whole with our good buddy Jason Upton once again. Again, subscribe. Please hit the notifications bell and write us a nice comment. We're going to look at the whole Psalm 90 today. It's going to be a good one. All right, here we go. What do you say, Mr. Upton?
I'm ready.
I don't know why I've all of a sudden started calling you Mr. Upton.
I know. Gee.
What is that about?
I don't know.
Look at me and you today. Black shirts. Both
I know.
of us.
I'm obviously younger than you.
Clearly.
Jeepers.
Did I ever tell you that one story about the day that I officiated the funeral and my dad, okay, so I'm 54, my dad is 80, okay? Now, this was 5, 6, 7 years ago. I don't even remember. Pre-COVID. And we're at this funeral, you know. My dad's like, obviously, 25 years older than me. And we finish the funeral. We're walking out of the funeral. And I hear this woman behind me say to my dad, "Sir, sir." And my dad says, "Yes, ma'am." And she says to him, I noticed that you and the pastor who officiated the service today look very much alike. Are you all twins?" And my dad said, "Oh, thank you, ma'am." And I was like, "Lady, what?" My dad's 25 years older than me. Either he looks wonderfully young or I look like haggard, like I'm old. What is wrong with me? I need to start putting beef tallow on my face or something.
You're looking good, Kev.
What's that?
You're looking good. I think you're great.
You know how we can redeem this? Let me read Psalm 90.
Yeah.
Here we go. Psalm 90, guys, okay? A prayer of Moses, the man of God. Not all of the book of Psalms was written by David. Other psalmists as well. This is Moses' psalm. "Lord, you've been our dwelling place throughout all generations. Before the mountains were born, or you brought forth the whole world, from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. You turned people back to dust, saying, 'Return to dust, you mortals.' 1,000 years in your sight are like a day that has just gone by, or like a watch in the night. Yet you sweep people away in the sleep of death. They're like the new grass of the morning. In the morning it springs up new, but by the evening it's dry and withered. We're consumed by your anger and terrified by your indignation. You set our iniquities before you, our secret sins in the light of your presence. All our days pass away under your wrath. We finish our years with a moan. Our days may come to 70 years or 80 if our strength endures. Yet the best of them are but trouble and sorrow, for they quickly pass and we fly away. If only we knew the power of your anger. Your wrath is as great as the fear that is your due. Teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Relent, Lord. How long will it be? Have compassion on your servants. Satisfy us in the morning with your unfailing love, that we may sing for joy and be glad all our days. Make us glad for as many days as you have afflicted us, for as many years as we have seen trouble. May your deeds be shown to your servants, your splendor to their children. May the favor of the Lord our God rest on us. Establish the work of our hands for us. Yes, establish the work of our hands." This is Moses' prayer to God. The question that we have today from the context of this psalm by Moses, Psalm 90, is how did Jesus live with a profound awareness of life's brevity in God's eternity? And how can we learn to number our days like him? Moses seemed to have a handle on that. Clearly, Jesus did as well. How did Jesus live with a profound awareness of life's brevity in God's eternity?
I mean, in a real practical way, I would say something I've thought about for years is, if you want to lead like Jesus, be like Jesus, living one's life like you only have 3 years. Change a lot. He gets his disciples, he disciples in such a way that he wants to pass this on. He wants them to be actively living, doing what it is that he's doing, and doing it to a greater measure. And I often think, how would that change the way I live my days? If we kind of think in our culture, because we're programmed by this, and it has nothing to do necessarily with the Jesus way, we think that everything is about building a brand of our culture, building something that we can retire on. And that has its own discussion. Wendell Berry, I've been reading a lot of his stuff lately again, and he often speaks of that, like, why do men and women in America take on jobs that they just can't wait to not do? Right? Like their whole life, the whole purpose of their life is to not do what they're doing. How would it transform work culture if people were doing what they feel called to be doing?
Oh, I love that.
Right? And well, we'd have a lot more writers and a lot more, and I think there is an element to that it's profound how much our lives change when we realize that our lives are limited. It's profound how much better for me, it's profound how much better I am at if I come to your church and you have me speak and you tell me I have 25 minutes, I always do better. If I have 20 minutes to lead a worship set, I'll always do better. If you give me an hour and a half, I may not do better. Why? Because the limitation, it makes me more focused.
That's what I was going to say.
Right?
Father Patsy Iaquinta is one of my greatest mentors. And I might have said this on an earlier episode, but this impacted my life so profoundly.
Yeah.
I cannot not think about this every day. He scolded me one day, and he said, Kevin, participate. Don't anticipate. He said, you're living your life in constant anticipation.
Oh, that's great.
I want you to participate, not anticipate.
Yeah.
And in light of what you're saying, that's what's going through my head as you're talking. I want to be a person who participates in life in every way. And even what you said about why would you do a job that you hate, that you don't want? I mean, think about that.
Yeah, your whole purpose of doing it is to figure out how to not do it. That's the goal, is to retire from it. It's like, but the thing is the point of it is that has nothing really to do with this. But the point of it was what does have to do with it is once you reorient your mind to that way of thinking, then everything you're doing is something you want to do forever. You don't want to retire. You're not just building something. I'm going to waste my days doing this so I can have days at the end of my life to do whatever I want. No, your whole life becomes doing, something that you're good at, something that you love, something that you want to do until your last breath. It's part of, and I think that's sort of connected to being limited, to having an understanding of our limits. And so when I'm speaking and I have limitations, I tend to do better and time limitation. I'll always be right on time. And I feel like, that's so, I think it's so important, Kev, to have those restraints and limitations. And I would just say this last thing. I was just thinking this out loud. There's a lot of conversation. A couple maybe a year ago or so, people were, not everybody, but a lot of people, maybe they just arrived they'd gone to a Catholic church or a mass or, Orthodox or so. And it's like, these people only have homilies that are 10 minutes long, no sermon. I think Pope Francis, who I loved, I love him, but no sermon should be more than 10 minutes long. And I had all these people posting that no sermon should be more than 10 minutes long. And to be honest, I would just, rarely do I comment, but a friend of mine posted that, and I just had a smile, the crying face. I just thought it was absurd, because I'm raising sons that listen to these, Joe Rogan podcasts that are like full of ideology, and they're listening to, 3 hours of this podcast, right? And then sermons are supposed to only be no more than 10 minutes. And I think, what a joke. On one level, I think, what a joke. What are you talking about? You should only have sermons that are, but with that said, on some levels, I do think it's a joke. We should have time to listen to sermons and messages, and albeit I think they should be good and prepared and beautiful. And it's something I would want to listen to. I don't necessarily want to listen to 3 hours of bad preaching. But I do think there is something to be said for the limitation. So when I listen to one of the greatest sermon writers of all time, in my opinion, of the last 50 years, obviously Buechner's a big one, but maybe a less known one is Barbara Brown Taylor. I often will just read her sermons, and you can read through them with inflection. You can read through them in about 20 minutes, 15 minutes max, and it's so filled with just so much information and beauty and wonder and all of it. And I think, how did she get that all into 15 minutes? It's just unbelievable. There's no wasted words. And so therefore, when you're dealing with the living word, who recognizes brevity, recognizes, if any human, and Jesus was fully man, ever walked the face of the earth and shows how it's done, if there was ever a human that could have acted like he could live forever and that he had forever, it would have been Jesus, I think. And obviously, and yet Jesus lives a life with a sense of brevity, of purpose, of following his Father's will in everything, of constantly not wasting his time, but yet at the same time, to his disciples, seeming like he was wasting time, in that sense, like, what are you doing this for? What are you doing this for? And he was very, very, very focused on the things that mattered. And we are, to those of us that think we know what matters, but those things didn't matter to Jesus, we could, like Peter, we could think, Jesus, shouldn't you be focused on these things? And Jesus would be like, no, because life is short. I'm here to do a specific thing, and I don't have time for that. That's the stuff that isn't going to get things anywhere. It's not going to move anything. It's not going to transform anything, Peter. But this will transform, and that's like, wow. It's so it reorients us to bring brevity to our lives in practical ways, but also, existentially to realize, I'm. If I woke up every morning, I don't want to be depressed, but if I woke up every morning going, this is my last day, I'd live my life differently. I don't choose to do that. I don't want to live my life like, this could be my last day. I don't want to be like that dad. Hey, guys, this could be my last Father's Day. Let's make it good. That's kind of manipulation, right? But at the same time, living life with a sense of, awe and wonder and presence.
Mm-hmm. You think about, brevity and eternity. And I'm going to make both of these statements or reference both of these scriptures. And I don't know if they're more brevity or eternity. Mary has chosen the greater part. Is that brevity or eternity? It's probably both. He resolutely set his face towards Jerusalem. Is that brevity or eternity? It's probably both. The pivot point, I think, between the two is presence.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I think, I heard Richard Rohr talking about the difference between Kairos and Chronos. And I think part of what Moses is saying here is stop living so chronologically. If you can discover Kairos within the Chronos, you're on to something, If you can just be present within the confines of time and space, you might be standing in eternity. And I think that's huge. I just do. So, man, I love talking to you.
You too, Kev. That's good stuff.
Praise God. Hey, guys, there we go. Psalm 90. Me and my main man, Jaybird. All right, guys, join us tomorrow. We're going to look at one of the most well-known Psalms there is. And frankly, I love this Psalm. Tomorrow, we're looking at Psalm 91 through 101. We're doing Psalm 91 tomorrow. Join us tomorrow. Mr. Upton will be back with us. God bless you guys. See ya mañana.